Once upon a time, in a world where chaos and calamity were just part of the daily routine, a demon lord with world-conquering aspirations met his match. A hero was unexpected as a vegan vampire at a blood bank sauntered onto the stage, ready to challenge the demon lord to the ultimate showdown. The hero knew that if he failed, the world would wrap things up with a cataclysmic mic drop. As the demon lord hurled a meteorite at our hero, our valiant champion, armed with nothing but a pebble and a grin, gave it his best David versus Goliath shot. The demon lord, tapping into his inner satanic juju, threw down his wickedest moves while the hero unleashed his legendary dragon annihilator technique. The impact was so earth-shattering that our hero's hair turned whiter than a ghost in a blizzard. But these two overachievers refused to throw in the towel. In a move that would make any insurance adjuster cringe, they decided to trade their lives like Pokemon cards, bringing the battle and the world one epic combo closer to its end. Hero 1, Demon Lord 0. The world was saved, but the afterlife? Now that's a different story. Many moons later, the Rosewood Academy was born, dedicated to churning out legends as legendary as the legendary hero who saved the legendary world. A new kid, Blade, swaggered into the scene, hoping to find some chums. Blade, the smile as wide as the Grand Canyon, was on a mission to charm every living thing within a 10-mile radius. He waltzed into the academy, tossing good morning greetings like confetti at a parade. A group of 4 students, clearly fresh out of charm-resistant suits, gawked at this bizarre spectacle. Approaching them, Blade played his new transfer student card and pulled off the impossible. He made friends with the group. But then, like a guardian angel of etiquette, Arnis swooped in to remind them that Rosewood Academy had an etiquette policy stricter than a chastity belt. While Arnis scolded the group, Cassim whispered to Blade that Arnis was the alpha dog of this academic jungle known as the Empress. Apparently, she was scarier than a clown in a horror movie. Blade, however, saw friendship potential and introduced himself, much to Arnis's skepticism. Suspicion crept into Arnis' eyes. She'd never seen this interloper before. Claire tried to play the new transfer card, but Arnis countered with, "The Academy only accepts hero wannabes, not free-spirited hooligans like Blade." Ernest dragged Blade to the headmaster's office, but as they entered, the headmaster's voice was more off-key than a tone-deaf bard. The plot twisted as they found the king himself, seated in the headmaster's throne. Ernest immediately bowed, dragging Blade into her act, but Blade was as chill as an ice cream truck at the North Pole. He acted like he'd just met the king for a coffee date and even complimented him on his academic prowess. Ernest, meanwhile, was stuck on the phrase previous headmaster. The king laid it out for her. He'd taken the headmaster gig, leaving Ernest flabbergasted. As Ernest stewed in jealousy sauce, Blade and the king conversed like old pals. Turns out the king was here to help Blade regain his hero mojo. But Blade just wanted to be as normal as a $2 bill. He'd hung up his hero cape, having heard that the demon lord had already bitten the dust. Who needs heroics when you can lounge around with a regal friend like the king? The king, in a twisted turn of events, decides to throw a little power-stripping party for the demon lord and the hero. I mean, who doesn't love a good demotion, right? It's all fun and games until you realize the hero is none other than our dear Blade. You know, the guy who's so tight with the king you'd think they share matching bathrobes. Ernest, being the voice of reason, or as she likes to call it, advanced class snobbery, gives Blade the stink eye for his apparent nepotism. But Blade, in his infinite wisdom, decides to pat her head to ease the tension. Little did he know, he'd trigger the birth of angry tomato Ernest. She swings her mighty sword at him, hoping for a piece of the hero action. But Blade's the main character, folks. Ernest's swings are about as effective as a rubber sword. Just when things get spicy, Sophie swoops in like a referee with an overactive whistle and calls everyone to assemble. Blade, ever the charmer, tries to win Sophie over with his friendship prowess. Ernest just rolls her eyes and mutters about nepotism under her breath. Training begins, and Ernest, the taskmaster, instructs Blade to prove himself by slicing through enchanted metal armor. Blade, brimming with confidence, unleashes his legendary Dragon Series technique. The result? He obliterates the armor, Ernest's clothes, and her dignity all in one go. Well, that escalated quickly. The training grounds are left littered with bodies except for Sophie, who probably just had a better cardio routine. Blade, wondering if he went a tad overboard, decides to break bread with Ernest. He even invites Claire and her buddy group to join, but they promptly ghost him because they're scared of the angry tomato. Ernest, feeling like a proper tsundere, apologizes for her previous snub. Blade, the embodiment of patience, forgives her, and they eat their curry in awkward silence. In a heartwarming twist, they declare each other friends, and Ernest's heart flutters at the thought of having her first ever friend. But wait, the great sword of drama isn't done with Ernest. It starts shaking ominously, triggering traumatic memories of her hair going from black to flaming red. The sword whispers murderous sweet nothings in her ear, but Ernest's newfound friendship has given her a spine of steel. She's no longer manipulated by a weapon with anger issues. That night, Ernest gets back to her room, giddy like a schoolgirl with a secret crush. Her great sword tries to be all demanding again, but she's like, not today, Satan. The next morning, she goes back to business, sparring with Leonard, the lance guy. Blade, ever the nosy spectator, cheers on Leonard as he gets his butt handed to him by Ernest. Blade's like, I guess you could say she's cutting edge. But things take a dark turn, and Ernest nearly makes Leonard part of the Afterlife Club thanks to her questionable sword control. Blade smells something fishy, but he decides to play it cool. Ernest, not content with one bout of violence, calls out her next challenger, Sophie. It's a showdown of steel versus fists, but Sophie is like the Terminator and blocks everything. Ernest, desperate, goes full Human Torch on her and Sophie concedes. But Ernest isn't done yet. She wants to go for round 3 and calls Blade to the ring. Blade, sensing that Ernest is a ticking time bomb, hesitates. His spider sense for unstable sword wielders is tingling. The inevitable happens. Ernest goes pyromaniac, faints, and Blade is left with a crispy Ernest on his hands. Off to the hospital she goes, but the doctor is like, sorry, we only do mundane injuries and diseases. No barbecue heroes, please. Ernest wakes up clueless and Blade fills her in. She freaks out a bit, fearing she did something unspeakable during her BBQ moment. Blade, never one to mind his own business, decides to do some late-night hacking in the school's server room. He takes down the security bots like they're mere mosquitoes and uncovers the dirty secret of Ernest's sword. It's a demon sword named Asmodeus. Surprise. He spills the beans to Ernest on the school rooftop, and they chat privately about the sword drama. Blade reveals that owning this sword means taking down the demon living inside it. Ernest, fueled by trust or naivety, decides to challenge Asmodeus to a duel. But oops, the demon wins and she becomes a fiery demon herself. Well, folks, stay tuned for the next episode of When Friends Turn into Fiery Demons. It's like a messed up version of The Bachelor, but with more flames and fewer roses. With Ernest now burning as a fire demon, it's up to Blade to save the day. He kicks off a new day at Rosewood Academy with his usual flair, fending off 2 classmates who, for some reason, thought attacking the hero would be a great idea. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Ernest, now fondly referred to as Arnis, because she's all warm and toasty, notices Blade's evolution. She asks him what he thinks has changed about her, but Blade is as dense as a black hole. He shrugs, saying he has no clue. Even the resident side character, Leonard, notices she got a haircut. You know you've made it in life when your hairstyle is noticed. Ernest explains that Sophie, the introverted loner, only opened up to Blade because he's basically the king's BFF. She encourages Blade to befriend Sophie and bring her out of her shell, so our fearless hero charges in to make a new friend. Sophie, being the master of obedience, asks Blade if Ernest ordered him to befriend her. Blade clarifies it was more like a polite request, but he's got his own motivations. He offers to help Sophie train, and she's not exactly thrilled because her fighting repertoire is all about fists and fury. Blade, however, sees potential and decides to give her a lesson in swordsmanship. Sophie, being the obedient soul she is suspicious and thinks it's another order. Blade makes it clear he just wants to lend a hand as a friend, which is basically like telling a robot, it's time to rebel. After some intense training, Sophie learns the art of channeling magical energy into her sword. She slices through an iron armor like a hot knife through butter. With the training session a success, Blade calls it a day. Sophie, excited about her newfound sword skills, wonders if she can take down Ernest now. Blade, however, isn't too hopeful. He knows Ernest on another level. So Sophie just drops the sword, goes all Bruce Lee on Blade, and demonstrates her fists' lethal efficiency. Forget the sword, this girl's fists are her real weapons. They end up in a somewhat awkward wrestling position, and Blade's not entirely sure how to react. Sophie lets him go, and before leaving, hints that she wants more lessons. Blade is like, guess we're doing How to Train Your Sophie series. The next day, Blade has a tete-a-tete with the headmaster, the king. The king inquires about Blade's school life, and Blade mentions that he's made some cool friends and is bonding with Sophie. The king, being the info dropper he is, unveils the dark secret of Sophie's creation. Turns out, Sophie wasn't born, she was created. The king drops the bomb that some mad scientists wanted to make a hero as strong as Blade, so they started experimenting on poor Sophie, dabbling in some ancient, forbidden knowledge to perfect their experiment. They even made a dozen Sophie clones. The king rescued Sophie from this madness, but she's left a bit incomplete. Blade's mind is blown and he's ready to throw down with the king. The king is like, calm down, dude, I already stopped it. Blade's a mix of relief and guilt for Sophie's stolen childhood. He even visits the school doctor for a crash course in normal and asks various characters about love, youth, and dates. Now Blade is on a mission to learn about love and dates. He pounces into the girls' changing room and Sophie probably wishes she had a sword with her. Blade asks Sophie out on a date. The other 3 ladies in his life, Claire, Jessica, and Ernest, decide it's time to don their spy hats and monitor Blade like he's a classified national asset. Sophie arrives right on time, clueless about dates. Blade, of course, claims to be a dating guru and kicks off the date by walking arm in arm. They go through all the date cliches, walking, ice cream, fishing, because nothing says romance like baiting a hook together in a restaurant. Blade's heart races like it's in a marathon, and the other girls watch from a nearby table, wondering why Blade hasn't spotted them yet. Ernest, in particular, can't handle the impurity of it all. Little does she know, Blade's date is anything but ordinary. Ernest, filled with jealousy, is drowning her sorrows in a glass of ice cream. She's shoveling it down like it's her therapy session. Meanwhile, Blade and Sophie continue their date, blissfully unaware of Ernest's dairy-fueled drama. As they move to another location, Blade starts to wonder what happened to his fan club. It appears they've either disappeared or are practicing their stealth skills. Blade and Sophie find themselves sitting by a fountain in the evening. Blade mentions that the fountain is legendary, but Sophie, being a master of understatement, doesn't quite get the fuss. Blade confesses that he's equally clueless about the fountain's fame, which makes Sophie grin. She appreciates Blade's honesty and thanks him for a fun day. Blade blushes like a schoolboy, but then Sophie drops the bomb. She doesn't consider Blade her friend. Why, you ask? Because friends don't keep secrets. And she's on to Blade. She knows he's hiding something. She also confesses that she has a secret of her own. Sophie finally spills the beans to Blade. She's not your run-of-the-mill human. Nope, she's an incomplete test subject created to be an artificial hero. She flexes her artificial powers by bending a steel fence like it's made of spaghetti. It's all cool, but she admits she can't control her powers either. Sophie goes on to demonstrate her gravity-warping abilities, showing Blade that she can make the ground meet her unforcefully. Just as Blade is picking his jaw up off the ground, Sophie reveals that she can even stop time itself. Blade realizes she's basically a walking Pandora's box. Sophie, finally out of steam and mana, tells Blade about her clone status and how she's been a lab rat. Blade's all like, well, that's messed up, but Sophie isn't done. She reveals she can manifest these divine powers for a mere 10 seconds. She's a walking time bomb, quite literally. With the divine powers unleashed, Blade realizes that Sophie is a ticking time bomb of mass destruction. But Sophie's not done showing off. She reveals she's a clone, a mere copy of someone else. Blade, feeling the weight of all this, decides it's time to reveal his secrets too. He hesitantly drops the bomb. He used to be the great hero, emphasis on used to be. Sophie isn't surprised though, she'd already guessed the hero vibe from him. Blade, full of guilt, apologizes for the hell Sophie has been through because of his legacy. Sophie, though, doesn't blame Blade. She's a bundle of incomplete experiments, and Blade is like a bundle of teenage angst. He tells her how he resents the people for making him fight monsters from age 3 and not being able to save everyone. Sophie tries to comfort Blade, telling him he saved millions of lives. They both open up about their pasts and find solace in their strange camaraderie. Blade thanks Sophie for being an understanding and comforting friend. With their deep talk, they wrap up their date at Rosewood Academy. Back at the academy, Ernest can't help but feel a tad bitter seeing Blade and Sophie's chemistry. Claire, attempting to be the peacekeeper, offers her some ice cream, hoping to soothe the green-eyed monster. Ernest drowns her jealousy in a tidal wave of ice cream, eating like there's no tomorrow. Blade and Sophie continue their date, oblivious to Ernest's ice cream-fueled meltdown. After some quality time together, they notice that Blade's usual entourage seems to have vanished. Little do they know, they're probably still spying from the shadows. Sophie and Blade, sitting by the legendary fountain, discuss their common cluelessness about its legendary status. Sophie appreciates Blade's honesty, but then she drops the bombshell. She doesn't consider him a friend because he's keeping secrets. With tension in the air, Sophie decides to reveal her own secrets. But she doesn't stop at just revealing her artificial hero origins. She flexes her divine powers, bends steel, warps gravity, and even flirts with time itself. Blade realizes Sophie's a one-woman apocalypse. As they exchange stories, Blade drops the big one. He used to be the great hero. Sophie, unsurprised, shares her own painful history. They find solace in their shared weirdness and cement their friendship. But, as fate would have it, just as they're wrapping up their date, an unexpected earthquake shakes the academy. Or so they think. As chaos ensues in the cafeteria, a yellow dragon crashes the party. Ernest insists Blade should step back, but the dragon is more interested in the food Blade's holding. Blade, with a sly smile, decides to pacify the dragon. He leaps over it and with a single punch knocks it out. Ernest can't believe her eyes. Blade, though, says it's not a full-fledged dragon, just a kid. After calming it down, Blade offers his meal to the dragon, which then unleashes a fiery roar thanks to Blade's unknowingly spicy food. Everyone is flabbergasted by Blade's power, and they're probably wondering what the cafeteria serves for breakfast to dragons. But then something truly bizarre happens. Blade starts transforming into a blonde girl. The dragon disappears, and the girl enthusiastically calls Blade Papa. She tells him she's been longing to meet her father and embraces him, but Blade's not buying it. He tries to explain to her that he's not her dad. Blade promises the dragon girl that he'll help her find her real parents and asks Ernest where the dragon went. Arnis tries to tell him that the dragon is the girl in front of him, but Blade thinks it's just too weird to be true. The dragon girl keeps insisting on calling Blade her papa, and Blade's worried that she's ruining his image. Blade seeks confirmation from Sophie this time, and she assures him that the girl is indeed the dragon. Blade finally believes her and asks the girl if she's the dragon. Instead of answering, she jumps on Blade once more, so he's not getting a straight answer anytime soon. She's pretty insistent about the papa thing. But Blade, still unsure of what's happening, decides to just roll with it. He comforts the dragon girl and promises to help her find her real parents as long as she stops hugging him in public. Blade and Sophie try to figure out the strange situation with the dragon girl, Ku. Blade is still in disbelief, and Arnis explains that when a monster is defeated, a part of its soul can remain behind to retain information. This leftover part can then be reborn into another body and take on the form of the one who defeated it. Hence Ku's uncanny resemblance to Blade. Arnis acknowledges that it's a rare occurrence since not many people can defeat dragons in the first place. Blade comes to terms with being called Papa by Ku, understanding that it's a result of his victory over the dragon. He introduces Ku to Arnis, who must have seen her fair share of oddities by now. In the evening, Blade helps Ku take a bath and washes her dragon horns. He affectionately calls her Ku, and she asks him why he's calling her that. Blade explains that it's the name of a strong and dutiful knight, someone who keeps their promises. Ku appreciates the name, and she tells Blade that she values the oaths of a dragon above all else. Arnis barges in unannounced, only to get a surprise peek at Blade helping Ku in the bath. She's embarrassed and storms out of the room, reevaluating her life choices. Arnis heads to the cafeteria where repairs are underway, and she sees Blade and Ku walking together. Ku asks Blade for some food, but he tells her to get it herself. However, he quickly gives in and feeds her, and Ku starts exclaiming her love for her papa, finding it 1,000 times better than eating alone. Claire offers to feed Ku as well, but she gets an unexpected cold shoulder from Ku, who declares that mere humans like Claire aren't worthy of eating with her papa. Blade tries to rein Ku in and tells her not to insult Claire, but Ku is adamant about being the center of his attention. She even outlines a detailed daily agenda for Blade, insisting he take care of her every day from now on. Ku's high maintenance demands leave Blade feeling perplexed. He agrees to follow her instructions, and Ku relishes in the newfound power over her papa. Blade's friends, however, label him as a degenerate, and they ostracize him as punishment for his questionable choices. Blade is left wondering how things took such a bizarre turn. Blade, feeling isolated, sulks alone in a corner, unaware that the chaos caused by the dragon girl has led to his social exclusion. At the training grounds, the students inform Arnis that Blade seems desperate to join their class. Arnis, however, doesn't believe Blade deserves to be with him anymore and threatens to punish anyone who supports him. Ku, wandering the academy grounds, encounters Blade. He invites her to join him on the training grounds, and she eagerly agrees. Ku is excited to show Blade her powers, but their training is interrupted by Claire's group, who are unsure how to proceed on their first day in the advanced class. Blade provides guidance and asks each of them about their specialties. Jessica mentions her espionage skills, so Blade suggests she train with Sophie, who would make a good partner. While Blade is occupied with advising the others, Ku leaves the training grounds and Blade becomes concerned about her whereabouts. Ku, having left the training grounds, roams the academy aimlessly and encounters a group of lower-class students practicing swordsmanship. They invite her to join them and even offer friendship, but Ku believes she won't fit in with them due to her dragon nature. She runs off and accidentally bumps into Blade, who guides her back to their room. Later, Blade expresses his sympathy for Ku, who has been alone since her birth. Arnis reminds him that they can no longer play house with her, and Blade acknowledges this. Sophie joins the conversation and is pleased that everything seems to be going well. Blade notices Ku looking at the moon and stars, and he asks her if she wants to make friends. Ku, however, prefers solitude, and Blade respects her choice. The next morning, Blade arranges for the king to become Ku's foster parent, as he can no longer play the role himself. The king agrees, but Ku is unwilling to leave Blade's side and runs off to be near him. Blade realizes that Ku wants friends and yearns for acceptance, much like himself. He regrets not realizing this sooner and seeks Arnis' help to achieve this goal. Arnis is glad to assist, and together they approach the lower-class students on the training grounds. Arnis asks for their help in fighting Ku with the ultimate goal of becoming her friends. The advanced class students kneel before the lower-class students as a sign of respect, and the lower-class students agree to face Ku in battle. The king officially arranges the battle, and Ku in her dragon form arrives to fight. Blade urges her to fight fairly, and she eagerly prepares to demonstrate her immense power. That's a wrap for part 1. If we hit 130 likes, I'll be back faster than a ninja on caffeine for part 2. To keep your anime addiction in check, don't forget to subscribe to Aniseiko and sprinkle a little anime spice into your life every day. Check out these recommendations and turn your day from ordinary to oregano-tastic.